Welcome back to Game Changer. So, first off, is if you can tell, I got a new microphone. Super excited. Shout out to my wife, an early Christmas gift. Second off, like I said, I think this may be one of the greatest drop fades in the history of YouTube. It's a combination of his hair texture. It's a combination of the technique applied. And yeah, I think it came out perfectly. So, we also talk about Junior's edge up. This is named Junior. It's definitely one to work with. But first things first. So this is the drop fade. Now let's talk about this because in the comments I got a lot of it's not a drop fade, it's a ball fade. So what I deem a drop fade, for one, if it drops below the occipital bone, right? That's one. And the main indicator for me is the back part of the fade, is it lower than the sides, right? If that transition, see how it kind of ascends up. If it's not even, it's not a ball fade to me. A drop fade can be high, low. It's just a term that means that the temple of the fade is higher than the back of the fade. Simple context. You can do what you want, argue in the comments. I really don't mind. But yeah, so this is my primary line. I'm going to teach this as though you've never watched one of my tutorials. So I do a two-line, two-space method. So this is the primary line. The primary line separates the bald from the hair, speaking layman's terms, right? Then I'll make a secondary line, which will be lighter. The secondary line separates the light section from the dark section. Then we have a primary section, which is the light section, and the secondary section, which is the dark section. All steps are very important. That primary section, which is the light section, is so important when it comes to the transition. Really, that primary line, this line that I'm doing right here, the entire fade, even though at the end of the fade you won't be able to see this line, will follow this guide. So it's like these small details are important. So I'll show you how to get it in. If you notice, I put the line in hard with my trimmer, like right there. A lot of barbers don't like to do it because it's hard to get it out, but really for me, whatever you put it in, what you can take it out with. All right, so I'm cutting Junior down with a 1, and I'll go over the steps to the techniques more when I get to that section. All right, so what I'm cutting Junior down with is the 1. This is my Andy's Walls magic clip. I apologize, and I just want to cut him down. So right there, along that parietal ridge in the area from where the head goes from the top of the head to the side of the head, right? That's a very crucial part of the fade right there, because if you debulk or if you fade too high, you'll get that small little line across, and we'll talk about that because you want everything to transition smoothly. So right here, what I'm doing is putting the primary section in. You see, that's the light section. So now you see all 4 parts: the primary line, which is the bottom line, the secondary line, which is what you see me create now, then the primary section, which is the light section, and the secondary section, which is the dark section, right? So now what I'm doing, I'm taking away the primary line by blending it into the primary section. Very, very important step. Let me explain why. I've seen a lot of barbers, what they do is they just fade this section all the way out. You don't want to do that, because what I'm doing is I'm creating this fade or transition by steps, and at the very end I'll bring it all together. But if I was to take this section all the way away, just fade it out, like fade all the way up. If you notice, right, when I'm fading, I never truly fade this section all the way up to the next line. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. It's kind of its own little section that'll blend together to create one smooth transition. So if you see right here what I'm doing, that's like a little reverse tiger claw method. It puts the blade closer to the scalp, which helps me take the line away. But again, I'll repeat, and maybe I'm just talking here because I like my new mic and I sound very professional, but you do not take that line all the way up to the next line. And as far as I get in the comments, okay, what lever are you using? Yeah. The reason why I never really say, for one, I don't know, right? And you shouldn't know either. You never want to become a stiff barber. Okay, right here I'm doing lever 1, then lever 3, because if your lever play is stiff like that, then the fade will be stiff like that. It'll be choppy. So we never want to do a choppy system. You want to work off feel. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but the more reps you take off of feel and hand placement on the clipper, wrist movement, wrist rotation, how smooth as the flick on your wrist, that's more crucial than what lever I'm on at the moment. I really hope that makes sense. I'm not just saying it. So when you all say, where's your lever right here? You never, because there's nothing to explain. The more reps you put in, sometimes it's not about the small little notches. Smooth. You want to be smooth. Now, one thing I will point out, if you see my offhand, look at that thumb. Sometimes on the top, sometimes on the bottom. What I'm doing is I'm stretching the skin. When you tighten the skin, it actually makes it easier for you to make a smoother transition. Now, look at how that transition, or I faded that section in. Now what I do is I come back after I've faded it in for the most part, and I take my trimmer. Remember, I put it in with the trimmer, so I'll take it out with the trimmer. So if you notice, yeah, that's the last step for that section. But do you see how it blended in? You can still see the hair in that primary section, but you can't see the line anymore. That's what I mean. I always want to see the hair. I never want to see the line. So now what I'm doing is I'm debulking with my 1.5 guard. Since I cut them down to 1, I'll go a half a size bigger on the guard to just debulk. I'm taking away any thin spots, any inconsistencies in density, and also the lighter the area, the easier fade. What I mean, if I was to just take my whatever clipper I'm using with no guard or one guard to try to blend this section in, it's too dense. The hair above the section, so okay. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna bring this transition together along that line. Everything above the line, I'm just thinning out. My fade is going to be right along that secondary line right there, which is where the dark hair is. That's why I told you it's very important, because the fade follows that line. So I'm not fading in right now. What I'm doing is I'm taking the bulk off of that line. So when it's time for me to blend that line in, the lighter the area, it's not super dense, it's not super bulky, it won't be choppy. It'll be just a smooth transition. All right, if you listen, kind of rewind what I said, it'll really make sense. So right now, the second step in me debulking is that 1 guard. I went 1.5. Now I'm going 1 guard. And let's talk about hands and how I grip my clippers. If you look at my hands, right, I have a thumb on top, 2 or 3 fingers on the base or on the back side of the clipper, and I'm very, very light. I'm delicate. I don't want to force the clippers to do anything. Look at how smooth. Look at my flick. Look at the wrist. Those are high quality clippers, right? So I don't have to be rough. I don't have to be aggressive on the client's scalp. For one, it prevents irritation, and for 2, it prevents a choppy fade. Take your time, be smooth. If it's one piece of advice that I can give any barber, especially a new barber, you want to have a very smooth, a very precise and light touch on the clippers. Smooth hand game, right? No pun intended. So now, if you look at this section, right? Now, what have I been doing the past 1.5, 2 minutes? Look at how light that line is now. See how the lighter the area. So now, what I'm going to do is, see how light it is? It's not gone. I never really got rid of the line, but what I did was I prepped the line for the steps to come next, which is to blend it together with my Babyliss clipper. All right, and look at my offhand. The left hand is stretching the skin. Oh, actually, I'm using these clippers right here. And what I'm doing now is I'm just taking a line away. It's like an eraser. But all of that is possible. The reason why this fade came together so smooth is because of the steps. The steps are very important. It'll take a little longer, yes. But really, this fade takes no more than, I think, all my clients are booked for 45 minutes, and I do it within that time. Without the facial hair, this probably was a 35-minute haircut. It's just small steps. Look at the offhand. Again, I'm stretching the skin, makes my workspace larger. And the debulking, I just can't stress enough how important that was. And now I just erase the line. Again, I'm talking a lot too, because this new mic is so cool, bro. Like, do you hear me? Y'all want some ASMR? Listen to this. I'll be back when it's time for the next step. Y'all take care. So although I walked you through these steps, right, I feel like this is something I should come back and comment on. Do you see how that came together? If you can go back and watch any of my tutorials, and the process is the process, it never changes. The small details. If you take your time, if you're patient, and if you don't, so don't cut for speed, right? I don't want to give the wrong, me personally, my opinion, my advice, don't cut for speed, don't cut for quantity, cut for quality. That gives you a higher return on residual. Oh, look at this, see that? The process, boom, I just want to show you the transition right there. You want residual clients, right? You don't want I cut 15 clients this week, but 8 of them I never see again. Shout out to my shave gel coming soon. I know I've been saying that, but I promise y'all, give me a few months. I'm working on some kinks getting together. So when it comes to the edge up, especially this type of edge up, there's a medium between finding where the hair grows thickest and where, okay, this is too far to push back. Now, first step, razor over comb. Why? Because his hair has inconsistent densities. If you see, I'm razor over combing the thicker areas. It's like debulking, but no guard, right? I'm using the razor over comb to debulk. It's pretty much what I'm doing. I want to give the hair a nice consistency and density across the front to make that edge up look nice and crisp as possible. If you have an edge up where it's dense in some spots, really thin in certain areas, it'll look choppy. So when I debulk the edge up to make the density consistent, that gives it a nice smooth edge across the front. And as far as edging them up, I pick where the hair grows thickest for the most part, and I pick that to be my line. And then I see, okay, if his hair grows back in 3 days, where would it look crazy if I put this edge up at? So that's another way I look for it. Don't look so much for making the edge up super sharp on these type of edge ups. Believe it or not, once you apply that edge up with that razor, it's going to be sharper than you assume that it'll be. So trust the blade. And then if you put the edge up in without pushing it back, look at it. And if you feel like, okay, it's still a little thin, or you show the client and they want it a little sharper, then you can slowly but surely inch, centimeter by millimeter, millimeter by millimeter, take pieces off till y'all find a nice medium to where they're comfortable and you feel comfortable as well. All right. Yeah. And then I just go back and hit the small, look at that. I mean, it just details. Look at my offhand, the left hand. What I'm doing is I'm stretching the skin, especially with the razor. You stretch the skin and tighten especially, so when you use the razor, when you tighten that skin, and y'all can't tell me that shave gel didn't just have that hair gliding off like that, right? When you use the razor and you stretch the skin, it tightens the skin so that way you can attack that hair shaft and slice it right off. Now, after I get the edge up in, what I'll do to make that fade look even sharper and to give that the illusion of truly bald, I'll take the razor, I'll do the front right there on the temple, and I'll shave it off. Then I'll use my trimmer to actually take that line away. All right, right here. That's my razor sound. And then I'll come back and I'll take that out. Look at that. Oh my God. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Y'all can't tell me that's not saucy. If you haven't watched the ASMR version of this video, I'm not talking in that video. It's more just clipper sounds. It's a much smoother, relaxing video. I hope you all enjoy it. Then I come back and hit the little hairs that stand up. Let me know what you rate this 1 to 10 in the comments. I compared to some of the best haircuts you ever seen on the net. I hope you enjoyed. Stick around if you like what you saw. If you like what you heard, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what type of haircuts y'all want to see. Look at that. Masterpiece. Take care. Game Changer out.